into here. They have just struggled. I'm done with this team. Not that I'm done with this team. This team is pretty much done. Sit at 6-9 right now. 38-9 loss against the Bills
Nice.
on Monday night. Last night. We're filming this on a Tuesday. I know we're on our stuff this week.
We are. Yes.
This was my other article that I put out today. Where do the Pats go from here? I mean, I know we've got one more game left against the Jets. It means nothing for either team. What's the first step after that game? So Patriots win, Patriots lose. They either finish 7-9 or 6-10. Patriots, what's the first step from there? The offseason begins when that clock hits triple zeros.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before. I think Jared Stidham he's going to be either a lifelong backup or he needs to be cut. For the people that thought he was going to be something, he came in 9 minutes left last night within the third quarter. Played pretty much a whole half. He couldn't drive the ball. He had two or three balls that should have been picked off. Multiple thrown balls into the ground. I mean, he didn't look good. He looked.
But the Patriots didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And
I don't want to play anymore.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from last night. The whole thing about if Stidham was any good, people always say, well, he doesn't get enough time. Well, he got a whole half and he couldn't move the ball past like the 50-yard line. Right. If you're that type of, and against the Bills defense that has gotten lit up all season, they're not the Bills defense from last year. You could make the argument that Stidham and Cam are on the same level, but if you're going to go ahead and say, well, Newton should come back next year, then neither should Stidham because they're both not going to be the quarterbacks that you hope. I'm fully in favor of drafting using a high draft pick on one of the four, whether that be Trask or Wilson or Fields, or maybe someone later. I don't know too many of the middle class ones, but those are the high ones right there. I'd love to see Trask come in and just run with him next year because I don't think you're going to be able to find a starting caliber quarterback that can push you into the Super Bowl level. And if you're not going for a Super Bowl, I'd rather hit it again with, a 6-10 season, get another pick and run it back in 2 years because you can't sit here and tell me Fitzpatrick or Stafford is going to get you into the Super Bowl. It's just not. At this point, the AFC is very strong. It's getting stronger by the week even. You have teams like the Titans and the Steelers and the Chiefs who are all going to be up there at the top again. And I just don't see the reasoning for grabbing another bridge QB, and I don't see the reason for running with Stidham next year.
Yeah, I seriously, I said this earlier in our group chat. I just don't understand the Stidham like hype.
Yeah.
If he was any good, like unless all these people think that Bill Belichick is like for whatever reason trying to blackball Stidham or something, trying to get him out of the NFL, like. If you know better than Bill Belichick, I don't know, maybe you should be the one running the team. I don't understand. Like, Bill Belichick's not different than any other. Like, he doesn't have some grand plan in place where he's like trying to like surprise teams next year by setting Stidham this year. I don't know. We're just gonna make Stidham look bad so we can catch people by surprise. Look, like it's just not gonna happen. Like the Patriots just don't have a good quarterback right now, and you have to face that. Stidham's not. You're not gonna draft some guy in the 4th round and he's gonna be the next Tom Brady. Stidham's just average backup who would be playing if he was the better option. I don't care if he's a better passer than Cam Newton. I don't care about really any of that. If he was better and he was going to make us win, he'd be in the game. Like point blank, period.
And you notice how the goalposts continue to move. So before it was when Stidham didn't start against Casey, it was because he was still recovering from the injury.
Yeah.
Now that we'll never actually probably know that, but evidently Hoyer was over Stidham, and then Stidham came in. So that shows that. He
really wasn't that injured, but we can even give them the fact that let's say he was injured. Sure.
Yeah, give him the benefit of the doubt. All right. Then you have Cam Newton lose 3 in a row when he comes back. They look horrible in that stretch. Okay, and then they lose to the Rams and get blown out on a game they needed to win.
Yeah.
And yet you have Cam Newton come in the next game and start yet again. It makes zero sense. You look at Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. Wentz looked horrible in a stretch of the season. What happens? Jalen Hurts comes in. He performs well with what he's got, and he almost pushed the Eagles into the playoffs. So they're 1 game away. If Stidham was anything, he would have at least put points up on the board last night. There's no argument to be made that Stidham is better than Cam Newton. You can say that they're equal, but there's no. People need to stop with this franchise QB crap. It's only because we said it before. It's only because Tom Brady was the quarterback when Stidham was drafted. It was the notion with Jacoby Brissett. It was a notion with Jimmy Garoppolo. And every single QB that gets drafted is, the next guy after Brady. And he's just not. People just need to get that to their head.
And the thing is, those two other guys, actually, when they did play, they showed flashes. They actually were able to perform. Like,
yeah,
those were better rosters, but that's not even the point. It's just, it's just frustrating to me. It's like, I don't know. Stidham, if he was any good for the team, he'd be playing. And if you think you're a better judge when it comes to quarterbacks than Bill Belichick, who historically, you look at Brady, you look at Brissett, you look at Garoppolo, you look at all these other guys like Matt Castle, even who worked in the system. All these other guys, Belichick's pretty good when it comes to QBs, and then all of a sudden, you think Jarrett Stidham's a stud who Belichick is just trying to blackball for whatever reason. It doesn't make any sense at all.
And before you go, Anthony, I just want to say one thing. It's interesting. There's like two different arguments going on. People will say that Bill Belichick is horrible on draft day, and I think everyone agrees with that. He's not a very good GM in terms of who he picks. He's had one Pro Bowler since 2010 and like one Pro Bowl wide receiver since like 2000. It was something crazy like that. So to use the argument that Stidham's the next big thing, but Bill Belichick sucks at drafting. I mean, he drafted Stidham. So which is it? Are you claiming that he hit on Stidham but misses on everyone else? And not to mention, Stidham was a 4th round pick. Name the last QB, in the past 10 years, aside from maybe a couple, spots.
The best one's like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that hit. I mean, if you look at all the QBs in the past couple years that came out that are legit starters, I mean, you're talking 1st round or 2nd round. That's it. There's no 4th rounders in there. You're not talking about the 10th QB that's taken off the board that magically turns into, Patrick Mahomes. It's like all these QBs are drafted early because people know what they can do. And it's just, I don't get it. I think people are hooked on it now. I don't think the Stidham truthers are ever going to give it up because they hooked on him so tough and so long now that they're just going to ride with him and they'll always make an excuse. But go ahead, Anthony.
Listen, I agree. They gotta fire Belichick as the GM. I think that should be their first action right there.
I was about to say, whoa, you said fire Belichick. I was like, whoa, but yeah, GM, I agree.
I even put it in my article. I said they gotta fire Bill Belichick, and then in the next sentence, as the general manager of football operations. But I think two necessary things. One, you need a wide receiver. I mean, you can't run it back no matter who you get. You could somehow land Trevor Lawrence in this draft, but you cannot run it back with Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, and company. You just cannot. It doesn't work like that because that's how you ruin this kid's career. So I say you obviously have to go ahead. I think we have the 14 pick, and you got to go ahead and use that on a top quarterback, no matter who it is. If you got to trade up, how fine, trade up, do what you got to do, but we need that quarterback to run with. Because after last night's performance, Cam isn't the guy. And it's quite evident. He had that one play where he broke out of like a sack and then ran for a touchdown. I'm like, oh, that's the Cam Newton I know. And he absolutely played horrible the rest of the game. So you draft a quarterback because I don't think drafting a wide receiver early like that would be the move. I think you got to go ahead and sign somebody. And in order to sign somebody, New England isn't the best market for a wide receiver. They're not the most appealing to a free agent. You got to fire Josh McDaniels because his play calling is absolutely terrible. No wide receiver is going to want to say, hell, you bring in Julio Jones. And I'm talking Julio Jones just because I know there's a lot of questions about him this offseason. I know we're probably not going to get him. He's the first name that came off the top of my head in terms of wide receivers that could be on the move.
There's a couple of good ones out there, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he's not going to want to come to New England. Like their sales pitch, like, oh, you get the block for Cam Newton. No chance in hell he is coming here. So I don't. You got to fire him if you want to make something. I heard a lot of rumors about Adam Gase coming into New England as a coordinator, not as a head coach. Everybody relax at home.
I don't want either. So
no, where was that? I'm trying to figure out where I was going with this. Oh yeah, get a wide receiver, by all means, but you got to fire McDaniels to do so. And you also need a consistent pass rusher. This is Chase Winovich. This is Chase Winovich right here. My mom got me this for Christmas. She's the GOAT. She also got me a jersey of his. Hell yeah. He leads the team with 3.5 sacks. Now, I love Chase Winovich. I love his energy. I think he's going to be a star, but he is not cutting it right now. You can't win football games if you're not getting pressure on a quarterback.
He needs help.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
They
you
need
bring in a guy,
interior help.
I don't know who's up this offseason. Hell, I'm still mad at Bill Belichick for letting Chandler Jones go. Seeing what he's turned into in Arizona, but you need help on that D line. I don't even want to say as a linebacker. You need help on the edge and in the interior D line because if there's
Yeah.
anything I'm cool with running back next year, it's our linebackers and our secondary,
Mm.
because I think Jawan Bentley and Josh Uche could be really good, and we really haven't had the time to see them like in their full potential and see what they can really do because Uche has been out for a part of the year and Bentley has as well. I think he was out last night. And the secondary, you got to keep that secondary together at all freaking costs. You got to bring back J.C. Jackson because I think he's an unrestricted free agent um, this offseason. And you got to keep the McCourty twins in. I know they're getting up there in age, but you got to keep them together if you want to succeed. And if there's anything, you want to chip out Gilmore just because he's getting up there in age and his play is down to decrease soon. Um, what was it, a partially torn quad that he just suffered
Yeah.
a week
Yeah.
ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to probably want out of New England. He's probably going to want a payday. So ship him out, get a draft pick for him, and then maybe you can use that draft pick you got for Gilmore to trade up in the draft. I don't know. This is why somebody not named Bill Belichick needs to do this because I certainly cannot. I am just a fan who kind of knows what they're talking about, kind of doesn't. I don't know. You guys can decide at home, but I think that should be a great plan for New England's offseason.
I mean, if Belichick is really keen in on, drafting a QB in the first round, I say, go after the Miami pick. They have the Texans pick, I should say, but it's Miami's this year. I think they're going to sit somewhere around the 5 or 6 range. I mean, I don't know how far Fields is going to slip down, but it all depends on if the Falcons are going to. I know the Falcons are in that 3 to 5 range. If they want to go after a QB, Fields probably gets taken then. But if you can grab whether Fields or Wilson, I'd go out and do it, and I'd move your pick at whatever you have, 14 or 15, and maybe you throw in some other assets and try to move up to 6. Miami doesn't necessarily need another high draft pick. They've kind of got a pretty young, core that they've got there. What sucks is I would say maybe try to go Gilmore over there, but I don't want to trade within the division a great player like him because that's when you get bitten in the ass, in week 15 when you need to win and Gilmore swats one down to keep you out of the playoffs. But I mean, I'm pushing hard for one of those 4. One of the 3 because Lawrence is pretty much locked. But I agree with you, Anthony. That there's a lot of just to name some of the defensive guys out there. Von Miller's a free agent. Leonard Williams a free agent. Melvin Ingram, Bud Dupree, Shaquille Barrett. There's a lot of decent free agents out there for this year. And
I
just
would love
as for
to see Von Miller in a Patriots uniform. I know it's not going to happen. He said many times he wants to stay a Bronco for life.
yeah.
Wow, that'd be nice.
And then last one, I think with wide receiver. So I would go with QB in the draft, and then with wide receiver, you gotta go after the young guys because the only thing you can sell if you grab a QB is that if you want to grow with our team, we want you for the future. We want you with Trask. We want you with Fields for the next 5-6 years. We want to see this team grow. So guys like Juju Smith or Kenny Golladay are a couple of the names that would become instant wide receiver ones on our team and would be the best wide receiver we've had since Edelman if he chooses to, go ahead and end it. So
Retire,
I think that's
not kill himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, damn, end it.
So yeah, I think you go QB in the draft, you go young wide receivers in free agency. Defense, I think you can kind of just go with who you can find. Just make that front seven a little bit better. Keep the secondary, like you said, Anthony, and then hopefully maybe you can sneak into the playoffs next year. But at least you've got a core for the next 5 or 6 years. I don't think passing on QB in the first round and then just going with your normal bridge quarterback and draft a no name that wasn't supposed to be in the first round but you took him at 15. That's not going to work anymore. So this is where Bill Belichick kind of is going to lose a lot of the fan base if he doesn't take a QB in the first round or I should say skill position, wide receiver, tight end, one of those 3. I mean, he's going to lose a lot of the fan base in terms of trust in him as a GM, even though a lot of us have already lost it.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I'm looking at some defensive line free agents for this upcoming year. You have guys like you have Clowney, you have Leonard Williams, you got Yannick Ngakoue.
Mm-hmm.
Even guys like Solomon Thomas, he's a former top 3 pick. You take a flyer on him. Just I don't know, make some moves. You need some help there. You really can't win games if you can't stop the run. You can't get sacks on the quarterback. Your defensive backs, they're among the best in football, but they can only do so much. And on top of that, your linebacking core is pretty sorry. If Hightower retires, you're stuck with Jawan Bentley and Josh Uche, Anthony Jennings, guys who are, kind of good. Jawan Bentley isn't really not that good, but otherwise, good, but not great. So they're not really going to get you anything. In terms of the draft, you almost have to go with a skill position player if you're Belichick. That's not going to be a running back, obviously. We really haven't seen Dalton Keene at all. Asiasi played last night. He didn't do anything at all. Ryan Izzo is terrible at football. I never want to see him touch the field again. So that really leaves us with wide receiver, QB, or tight end, maybe if you don't sign anybody. And, if I'm Robert Kraft, I'm kind of pushing for him to draft a quarterback because Newton's marketable, sure, but not so much anymore because we found out that he sucks. So you almost have to go with the quarterback and then maybe draft a receiver or sign one or trade for one or whatever, because the last thing you want is to, bring a young guy into an organization like this where you don't have any skill positions, anyone for him to throw to. He's going to get frustrated. He's going to lose confidence, and the fan base is going to be throwing their arms up, wondering what the hell you're doing. So this is kind of like a big make or break offseason for Belichick, and for a lot of the fan bases. If they respond to the criticisms that they've been facing all year, if they can fix the flaws, do anything to just kind of patch the holes on the sinking ship here, and just do something to make this team worth watching, because we're just kind of treading water right now and not doing anything, and we can't really keep going on. Drafting guys like Jordan Richards, who are projected 5th rounders in the 2nd round, watching them flame out in 2 years and then go on a day. So you got to do something.
Yeah.
And the Patriots have $51 million worth of cap space this year, which is the 4th most in the NFL. There should be no excuse for them not to make some sort of a splash in free agency. And you said this is a make or break offseason for Belichick. Hell yeah, it is. Last year was a make or break draft, alone for Belichick, because we kind of knew he wasn't gonna do anything in free agency. It's kind of expected of him, but this is the whole offseason. Is make or break for him. And if he doesn't, I'm pretty sure he's lost a lot of our trust. Even Joe Stafford in the chat, we were talking last night, and he said, I've officially lost faith in Belichick as a GM. I think it was him. Anyway, I don't want to slander his name. If
it was
say
him.
that.
Yeah, it was him.
It was him, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And
You can slander his name.
again, it's slowly starting to go. That trust is slowly starting to go. So I'm done talking about this miserable team. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
You guys said it, wrapped it up well. The only thing I would say is if you can somehow make it into just looking at the top 5 teams, if you can formulate a trade with maybe like Cincinnati, give them a lineman who they really need to protect Burrow.
Tooney.
Yeah, Tooney, and maybe your 14th, Tooney and your 14th to move into 5, and maybe you can grab one of those, grab Fields or grab Wilson. That would be my objective. Move an asset in your pick to move up, because if all of those QBs, those 3 QBs are taken, including Trask, make it 4. At that point, then you're probably taking Kyle Pitts if he's available. And if he's not available, then you're really in no man's land, because there's no QB that you're going to take at that point. Maybe Mac Jones, but from everything Stafford has said and everything I've seen, he's more of a 2nd rounder. So I feel like
he's an Alabama quarterback, so it's tough.
Yeah, and I feel like the sweet spot is that 1 to 7 range, where you could still grab Pitts if the QBs aren't available, or you could still grab that wide receiver from Alabama who's probably going to win the Heisman. I forgot his name, Smith.
Devontae Smith, he's so nasty. He was the first player to win, he was the first receiver to ever win AP Offensive Player of the Year, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, and
That'd
so
be nasty.
I hope we lose this weekend. Make it 6-10. Maybe we move up a couple more spots, make the pick even better, and go into the offseason